The conclusion to Frieren Beyond Journey's End has left fans buzzing with questions and many interpretations of its beautiful ending. So today, we're delving deep into the ending to uncover its hidden meanings, provide clarity, and help you appreciate this wonderful series even more. With the final exams now passed, Frieren, Methode, Wirbel, Yubel, and Denken are now recognized as first-class mages. But what exactly does this all mean for the future of the series? We'll discuss that and much more. This is Frieren Beyond Journey's End Explained. Drop a like on the video if you find this information helpful, and subscribe, as tomorrow I'll be dropping my review of Frieren Season 1, and we will for sure be covering Season 2 weekly when it comes out. But in the meantime, in May, we'll be covering Demon Slayer Season 4 and My Hero Academia Season 7. So there is a lot to be looking forward to until our lovable elf returns. So let's dive into the big event of this episode that everyone is talking about, which is the conclusion to the final exam. This is the most significant portion of this episode, as Frieren, Methode, Wirbel, Yubel, and Denken have passed the final exam to become first-class mages. This exam is put on by the Continental Magic Association and is significant for mages, as Serie specifically holds those exams to determine those with the potential to rival the same power as those who fought the Demon King, meaning that anyone who passes is considered on the level of the members of the hero party or is on the path to eventually get there. In the last episode, Frieren was the first to pass Serie's final exam and was offered to become her apprentice, as Serie saw the potential in Frieren. However, being loyal to Frieren and as well being tipped off by Frieren that she would be passed by Serie and asked to become her apprentice, turns down Serie. However, when it comes to Denken's final exam, things turn out differently, as you would expect. Upon arrival, Denken actually for just a moment considers fighting Serie, but quickly realizes that fighting such a powerful elf mage as herself would be futile. But this strikes Serie's fancy, as when he first walked in, she pegged the seasoned mage with a military background, now holding the highest authority among mages in the Northern Realms, renowned for his glorious tales, that he would be too old and have nothing left but cinders burning within him as inspiration. But seeing as Serie's intuition is so powerful and never wrong, she knows about Denken's initial thoughts to challenge Serie, which impressed her enough to essentially pass him. Serie was under the impression that he was too old, as often society assumes that older individuals have already achieved their goals and are content to coast through the rest of their lives. However, Denken defies this stereotype. Despite his age, he possesses an unwavering drive to accomplish more, fueled by a youthful passion that still burns within him. While many may believe that youth is a prerequisite for success, Denken proves that otherwise, and he couldn't care less about his physical age. His mind remains sharp and eager, ready for whatever challenge comes his way. Additionally, afterward, Denken expresses his gratitude to Frieren for enabling him to achieve this milestone. He mentions that it's time to return to his hometown to visit the cemetery. There's a hint of melancholy in his words. Instead of mentioning anyone else like Laufen or Richter or even his family, he simply says cemetery. After the showdown, they all gather to share a meal together, and Denken, being the elderly gentleman he is, encourages them to enjoy the food without worrying about him. He shares a poignant tidbit from his childhood, revealing that he never had the opportunity to indulge in sweet treats. This sheds another light on Denken's character, hinting at his royal upbringing. Upon learning Denken's identity, Stark reacts with shock, realizing that Denken might be of noble descent. This revelation leads into Denken's backstory, which is truly captivating. He reveals that he never had children or grandchildren, and his wife passed away when he was still in his mid-20s. His wife, hailing from a noble family in a region plagued by political turmoil, had a fragile body. Desperate to save her, Denken turned to wealth and influence, which ultimately proved futile, leading to his wife's death. There was a beacon of life in his agonizing hopelessness, though, when Serie established the Continental Magic Association. Ironically, it's also revealed that even now, he still has the potential to hold considerable authority, commanding even an entire country. But he reflects on his view of magic as merely a tool for conflict, yet he finds a glimmer of hope in his newfound happiness using that magic that other people would use for conflict, and wants to say thank you to Frieren eventually, because she is what made him realize that magic can actually be used for fun and for good. What's even more remarkable is that Denken became a mage because of Frieren's hero party. This moment really does signify a rare instance where someone remembers Frieren Frieren from years past. Throughout the series, many characters may have either forgotten Frieren or passed away, highlighting the sobering reality of being forgotten by time. Moving on, we get to Wirbel's exam. Serie is already familiar with Wirbel, recognizing him as the captain of the Northern Magic Corps and the greatest combatant among all second-class mages. Despite his formidable reputation, Wirbel astutely acknowledges Serie's unbeatable prowess and chooses not to fight her. Probably a good decision. Now, it's important to note that Wirbel doesn't make this judgment out of fear. Rather, he acknowledges the futility of challenging an unwinnable match. This insight demonstrates not only Serie's strength, but Wirbel's maturity akin to Denken's discernment, in recognizing that there is futility in crossing Serie under any circumstance. When Serie asks Wirbel about his favorite magic though, he responds bluntly, stating that magic is merely a tool for killing. He suggests there's no room for liking or hating magic because of its inherently lethal nature, and surprisingly, Serie passes him. Serie's decision to pass Wirbel stems really from his morally neutral perspective on magic. Despite his grim view of magic as a tool for killing, Wirbel demonstrates a realistic understanding of its nature ultimately. While his assertion may seem unsettling, it shows Wirbel's pragmaticism and acceptance of the world's harsh realities. While Denken and Olafin are having lunch with Fern and Stark, we find Frieren enjoying her new grimoire when Wirbel arrives, helping an old lady with her apples. His demeanor, though helpful, quickly shifts as he teases Frieren about her past with Himmel's party. Frieren doesn't hesitate to remind him of his attempt to harm Fern and her team, likening him to someone who'd kick a dog. However, this is not at all who Wirbel is and was somewhat of a misleading statement by him in the past. Despite Wirbel's prickly exterior, he shares a revealing sentiment about Yubel, suggesting that if she were to die, it would benefit the world. However, beneath his abrasive facade lies a sense of duty and altruism. Wirbel's desire to protect his village drives him to pursue greater magical power, viewing it as a means to vanquish threats and aid those in need, regardless of personal gain. This dichotomy adds depth to his character, portraying him as both confrontational and compassionate, a testament to the complexities of Wirbel's nature. Now, don't misjudge Wirbel's character either. His stark condemnation of Yubel as a threat to everyone should catch you off guard, as this is one of the first times Yubel is mentioned in this way. Wirbel's perspective sheds new light on Yubel's potential motives, which should leave you suspicious and intrigued about her next moves, if not frightened. That is, unless you're a Yubel simp. We know who you are, and we're watching. Furthermore, Wirbel's surprising death becomes apparent as we delve into his backstory. Despite his rough exterior and unconventional appearance, Wirbel harbors a compassionate and caring heart, contrary to what your initial impressions may be. His views on magic reveal a lot more of a nuanced stance. He seeks power not for personal gain, but as a means to protect others, showcasing his selflessness and integrity. And we discover that Wirbel hails from a secluded northern village where he was immersed in tales of legendary heroism from a young age, stories of hero Himmel's conquests, including the famed conquering of the Thousand Mirror Tower, encounters with immortal bows, and clashes with the Hell Emperor Dragon, captivated Wirbel's imagination during his formative years. And at a young age, he didn't quite understand the importance of Himmel helping the village do seemingly very unheroic tasks. But as he grew older, he realized how important it was. This reflects the innocence of youth. As children, we often envision heroes as dragon slayers or world saviors. Yet, true heroism lies in the everyday acts of kindness and selflessness, like hero Himmel's humble tasks of transporting goods for his village. These deeds may seem mundane, but they are essential for the community's survival and make him a hero in their eyes, even though the task may not be world-saving. However, Wirbel comes to realize the grim aftermath of Himmel's demise as the demons unleash their fury upon his village. He believes that without Himmel's presence, the village may have already succumbed to destruction long before peace settled across the land. Wirbel shares with Frieren that the tales of adventures, though, have shaped his journey thus far and inspired him as a person and continue to do so. It's a reflection on Frieren's role as the last remnant of the hero party. She stands as a symbol of past greatness, with people honoring admiring her for the heroism she embodies, yet it feels like her era is fading, and the responsibility of carrying forward the hero's legacy may fall upon a new generation of humanity that she believes is in great hands, all because of the impact Himmel made on this world. It may have not been recently, but in those remote places where word travels slowly, it is all too important. Himmel, while being unknown to many maybe in the newer generations, ended up inspiring Wirbel to become the man that he would become, all because of the very unglamorous tasks the hero Himmel did for the village. Now, let's move on to the rest of the exams and their outcomes and what they may potentially mean. And before we move on, let me ask you guys real quick to drop a like and subscribe to my channel. We cover all sorts of things here, especially with the new season of anime coming up. We'll be covering a ton of stuff in the next couple weeks. Next up, we have Yubel, a character who practically screamed pass from the moment she entered the cast. Her formidable prowess in battle, as she demonstrated when she effortlessly took out Sense's clone, and with her describing Serie during her fight with Sense, it made it clear that Serie would approve of her without hesitation. This is because, as Serie put it in episode 27, when talking to Kane, a mage needs to visualize. If they cannot do that, then they are not fit to be a first-class mage. This, as it turns out, is the entire premise of Yubel's Serie. The interaction between Yubel and Serie was also particularly intriguing. Despite Yubel's initial silence, Serie's response implied an unspoken understanding that she was going to be passed no matter what, almost as if they both already knew the outcome. This is once again because of Yubel's visualization and how she already believed herself to be first class, and so she passed, seeing as Serie stated that this is required to be a first-class mage and the most important aspect of being a mage. Now, when we reach Land's exam, Serie immediately calls him out, revealing that he was not even physically present at the exam. Rather, he was using magic to comfortably lounge at home, sipping tea, while this magic clone of his that he controlled took the test. Land hadn't set foot in the exam room from the start. Not even Yubel could detect this illusion. Serie, impressed by his cunning, decides to pass him. Now that his ability, though, has been revealed, what other hidden strengths does he possibly possess? This opens up new possibilities for his character, adding depth and intrigue, but also a layer of mystery surrounding him. Also, considering he cut ties with Yubel completely, this makes Land and Yubel's separate journeys much more interesting. Now, moving on to Methode, while not being exactly important in this episode, Serie, in her usual fashion, asks Methode what she thinks of her upon their first encounter. Methode, after a brief pause, responds with, "Well, isn't she the cutest little thing?" Serie, unfazed by Methode's unconventional response, simply declares, "What's going on with the examinees this year? Pass." While we don't get much from Methode this season, I imagine we probably will get a lot from her in season 2. After all, she is one of the more popular female characters, at least if you're going by Twitter and their fan art of her. Oh boy, it's good fan art, by the way. To simply put it, Frieren's ending is the summation of a lot of themes that the series has been building upon until now. On one hand, we have Frieren being named as the mage to lead humanity into the future, the start of a new era. But when you consider as well Frieren's past and seemingly how much even now that people will still need a hero like Himmel or the hero party again, it makes you wonder what will come next. But with Wirbel's words to Frieren about Yubel being better off dead in this world, we may have stumbled upon the stepping stones of what is potentially next for Frieren in the future as a whole series. Maybe it's not the Demon King we should all be worried about, is what I'm saying. Later that night at the Swallow Inn, they discuss the next steps after the exam. As a reward for completing the exams, Serie will be granting them their privileges and allowing each of them to pick one spell they wish to learn from Serie. They also are allowed to bring guests to witness this ceremony. However, there's an exception for Frieren, who's been banned from attending for 1,000 years. Frieren's reaction is priceless as always, but she calls Serie a child and denies wanting to go anyway, giving off a tsundere-ish vibe. This is most likely because there is some sort of past that we aren't told yet about Frieren and Serie that caused her to be banned. As they wait for Frieren to finish up, she mentions that there are fewer than 50 first-class mages in existence, placing Frieren in the top echelon of mages. Frieren then holds up a necklace and makes a surprising statement. She predicts that Frieren will likely become a more famous mage than herself, but then Lernen appears and attacks Frieren, apologizing for Serie's behavior towards her. Just before the attack, Frieren makes a fascinating observation. She senses that Lernen can read her mana fluctuations. This revelation leads to the realization that if this were a different era, Lernen would be a renowned mage, potentially rivaling the fame of the hero party. However, Lernen admits he is a mage solely focused on battle and not a good fit for this peaceful era that they are currently living in. He desires to be, though, the one to kill Frieren to secure his place in history, even injuring her shoulder in the process. Surprisingly, though, Frieren doesn't seem angered or concerned about the attack, and there's a good reason for this. Instead, she declines his request for a duel, knowing that Serie will remember him, which leads to an important flashback for not only Lernen, but Serie's character. This moment sheds light on Serie's character as Frieren, just before leaving the exam room, inquires about the flowers Serie is tending to, all conjured by magic. It's curious, given that Serie had previously reprimanded Frieren for her fondness of conjuring flowers, which is her favorite spell, learned from Flamme. Naturally, Frieren brings up this contradiction, and Serie's response is intriguing. She reveals that Flamme, her former pupil, was considered a failure despite her immense talent due to not living up to the power of the Demon King. Despite this, Serie never forgot her favorite spells of Flamme or her students, including Flamme's. So despite appearing cold and labeling Lernen as a failure, Serie does remember and care deeply about every one of her students, even if she has trouble expressing that clearly, as evident with her calling Lernen a failure. It's not as if she doesn't care for her students either, it's that her personality is blunt and likely values being truthful, but never disrespects her students on a personal level or disregards their existence if they do not live up to her lofty but understandable expectations. As they prepare to depart from Allburst, Fern reveals her chosen privilege from Serie, a spell to clean clothes, once considered legendary in previous eras. Frieren, proud of Fern's choice, pats her head, prompting a radiant smile from Fern. Meanwhile, Serie's reaction to the spell choice is less than enthusiastic, which I found quite amusing, of course. As they bid farewell to Allburst, they encounter Kane and Lawine. They exchange farewells, with plans to take the test again in 3 years, ready to take it on with vigor again. In a poignant final scene, Fern questions the rushed goodbyes that Frieren seems to always do. Reflecting the series' beginning in episode 1, it ends with a flashback to Himmel's simple answer to the same question: "It would be embarrassing when we meet again." It's an emotionally rewarding, bittersweet conclusion as the characters we got close to in this series are seen living their best lives, enjoying each moment together or in some cases apart. Frieren echoes Himmel's words as the screen fades to black, followed by a final message that we all wanted to hear: the journey to end continues, confirming Madhouse's return for a second season of Frieren Beyond Journey's End. But share your thoughts on the ending, and if you have any additional interpretations or theories on what will come next in season 2. I think we're only scratching the surface of what this series can achieve. As well, if you found this analysis helpful, then drop a like on this video. Every time you do, it helps spread the video out further to those who may also need the ending explained in more detail. Also, support the channel financially by picking up some of those delicious gamer subs 10% off by using my link in the pinned comment or the code SeaTactics at checkout. You can also support me by simply watching more of my content, buying some merch, or becoming a patron. All of the links are available in the pinned comment. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.